The results from your blood test that you did last week came in yesterday, and I'm afraid to tell you that you have a rare form of haemophilia. It is a genetically inherited disease which affects the ability for blood to clot. Haemophilia does not affect the rate of bleeding, but rather prolongs the effects of bleeding.
How does the disease work?
To explain that, we have to delve deep into the world of DNA and genetics. DNA stores the genetic information responsible for creating new proteins and new cells. It stores this information in the classic double helix shape, consisting of the backbones, the bases, and the base pairs. The whole DNA helix shape is then stored in the nucleus of the cell. Genetic information is data that describes a person's traits. These traits include a person's gender, race, weight, height, and the person's genetic inheritance. This information is stored in the form of different chemical combinations, which is much like how a computer binary works. DNA is key for an organism to develop, survive, and reproduce.
Oh, so it is the structure of the DNA that caused my haemophilia.
No, it isn't the structure that causes haemophilia, but instead a mutation in one of your genes.
Oh, okay.
Look, I'll show you. A point mutation is when the DNA breaks and a base pair is repaired, however the wrong chemical is chosen. This phenomena occurs during reproduction, when the daughter cell notices an issue and corrects it using its repair enzyme. The problem really takes place when the original leading strand's chemical is replaced rather than the newly created copy. For example, an adenine base joining with a cytosine base forming a mutated DNA component, or in this example shown, yellow to green. This therefore creates an issue when the cell is replicated, and the newly created cells also have the defection. An insertion mutation affects the length of the DNA on one side when compared to the other. This is caused by a break in the DNA chain, which could be contributed by outside factors such as radiation and chemicals acting upon the delicate DNA. The repair enzymes repair the broken DNA by adding extra nucleotides to the chain, which ultimately lengthens the backbone on one side, leading to complications during reproduction. A deletion mutation is when the segment of a DNA strand is lost or broken, and the repair enzyme simply joins the two connected ends without replacing the lost chemical instruction. A loop is then formed in one of the strands, and when the first cell is replicated, one of the produced cells gets less information than the other because it wasn't included in the reproduction stage.
Ah, that makes sense. It is a genetic disease. But what is haemophilia exactly, and how does it relate to mutations?
Okay, let me explain. Haemophilia is caused by a mutation in a single gene that is altered or missing. There are two main types of haemophilia, A and B. Haemophilia A is the most common form of the disease and is found in 1 in 4,500 males. In order for the disease to occur, a mutation in the F8 gene needs to happen. The F8 gene is important to produce the coagulation factor 8 protein, which works with platelets in the blood to help control clotting. Haemophilia B is much the same type of mutation, however it is less common, more serious, and is a defection of the F9 gene. The F9 gene is responsible for much the same protein production, however the protein is called coagulation factor 9. The second form of haemophilia is much rarer, with only 1 in 20,000 being affected.
So do I have haemophilia A or B?
You have been diagnosed with haemophilia A.
Okay, how did I get it?
Let me explain. Well, Liam, haemophilia, as discussed earlier, is a disease which is usually passed on genetically. This has led me to infer that your mother must have been a carrier of the disease. Due to your mother's genetic makeup, she wouldn't have shown any symptoms because she has 2 X chromosomes, meaning one would have cancelled the other out. The diagram shows that you had a 50% chance of developing the disease because you're a male. So I presume from my knowledge that your mother was a haemophiliac and you inherited the gene mutation from her.
What options do I have for treatment?
There is one treatment which is currently universally accepted amongst the medical community. That is replacement. This involves the injection of the clotting factor into the bloodstream. Many clinical trials have been undertaken about the future cure to the disease called gene therapy, which would work by producing artificial microchromosomes filled with DNA. The patient's cell, being removed from its body, would then be inserted with the chromosome and the cell is cured of haemophilia, because it has the instructions needed to create the protein. The cell then multiplies and is injected into the patient's bloodstream, where it spreads throughout the body and creates the coagulation factor.
Do you think this cure will be available in my lifetime?
The research is promising. However, the cure is still a long way away and is still undergoing clinical trials. There is a hope that it will become available for commercial use sometime in the not-so-distant future.
There is hope.